My name is Ruby Washington. Folks round here just call me Mama Ruby. I'm 68 years old, dark as the Cooper River at midnight, and I still smell like seafood and cast iron skillets when I wake up every morning. I run a little red food truck parked down on the Battery, Mama Ruby's Real Lowcountry Kitchen. Painted on the side in big white letters it says, "If it ain't seasoned with love, it ain't seasoned at all." People say my crab rice will make a grown man cry. My shrimp and grits have healed more broken hearts than any preacher in Charleston. My red rice is so good old white ladies pull their Mercedes over, roll the window down, and whisper, "Miss Ruby, this tastes like my granny's and she was from Georgetown County." I just smile and say, "Baby, your granny learned it from somebody, we just don't talk about who." I had one child, one daughter, her name was Shivonne, she was my whole world. When she was 10, her daddy's shrimp boat never came back from the storm. The ocean kept him. From that day on, I decided my baby would never want for nothing. Not love, not respect, not money. I was up at 4 every morning, running traps, selling to the fancy restaurants on King Street, opening the truck by 11, closing after the last drunk tourist stumbled away from the Battery. Then I went home and helped Shivonne with homework. She graduated from Clemson in hotel management. I sold every piece of gold I owned, every savings bond, every extra shift I could pull, to make sure she walked across that stage debt-free. She was beautiful, tall, deep mahogany skin, smile bright enough to shame the sun. Then she met Ethan Vanderhorst. Ethan Vanderhorst, old Charleston money, the kind of family whose great-granddaddy owned half the slaves that built this city and now calls themselves heritage preservationists. His mother is Madeline Vanderhorst Maddie, to her garden club friends, Miss Maddie, to everybody who knows which side their cornbread is buttered on. Miss Maddie wore pearls the size of butter beans and spoke like she had a mouthful of Spanish moss. She looked at me the first time Shivonne brought Ethan to the truck and said, "Real sweet, oh, how quaint, the help has a little business." I just handed her a sample of red rice and said, "Careful, ma'am, it's still hot." The wedding was set for Waterfront Park, right where the Ashley and Cooper meet. 300 guests, white tents, hydrangeas flown in from Ecuador, a string quartet playing Bach while the sun set over Fort Sumter. They sat me at table 17, way in the back by the kitchen doors, with the cousins nobody claimed and the plus, ones who didn't speak English. I wore the dress I made myself, royal, blue silk shantung with hand-embroidered palmetto trees along the hem. Took me 4 months. I looked like money, even if I didn't have none. The food was supposed to be low-country fusion, by some hotshot chef from Atlanta. When the family-style platters came out, I almost laughed. Pale shrimp floating in watery grits. Red rice that looked like it had been rinsed in dishwater. Okra swimming in canned tomatoes. I heard Miss Maddie at the head table loud, whispering, "Well, at least it's edible. We can't all eat from trucks, can we?" Then came the crab rice course. The server set the big silver bowl in the center of the head table. Miss Maddie stood up, smiling that magnolia smile, and announced, "This is a Vanderhorst family recipe, passed down for generations, my crab rice. My exact recipe, the one my own grandmama taught me on a Disto island, the one I'd been selling out of my truck for 25 years. I felt the heat crawl up my neck. Shivonne looked over at me, eyes pleading, "Mama, please don't." I just nodded, slow, like I was agreeing with the preacher on Sunday. Miss Maddie dipped the silver spoon, took a delicate taste, then turned to me, way back at table 17, and called out loud enough for the whole tent to hear, "Ruby, darling, why don't you come try some real crab rice? Maybe you'll learn how it's supposed to taste when it's not food. Truck slop." Laughter rippled across the white tables like a wave. I stood up, my chair didn't even scrape. I walked the long walk between the tables, blue dress shimmering under the fairy lights, every eye on me. When I reached the head table, Miss Maddie held out the spoon like she was feeding a child. I took it, tasted, smiled real sweet. Then I took the entire silver bowl with both hands, turned it upside down, and let every grain of my stolen crab rice slide down the front of her $400 champagne lace gown. Gasps, cameras flashing, somebody screamed. Miss Maddie's face went from peach to crimson. She snatched the bowl from me, raised it high, and smashed the rest of the rice straight into my face. Hot broth ran down my neck, crab legs stuck in my hair, sauce dripping off my eyelashes. She hissed, loud and proud, "We don't serve food. Truck slop at Vanderhorst events." The tent went graveyard quiet. Shivonne was crying. Ethan just stared at his shoes. I took the linen napkin from Shivonne's plate, wiped my face slow and deliberate, folded it neat, laid it on the table. Then I looked Miss Maddie dead in the eyes and said, soft enough only the head table heard, "Baby, you been steal in my recipes for 2 years. Tonight you just paid for the whole book." I turned, walked out past 300 open mouths, got in my old pickup, and drove home to James Island with crab rice drying in my curls. That night I made one phone call. 2 weeks later, every major paper in South Carolina carried the same headline: Lowcountry chef Mama Ruby sues Vanderhorst family for $4. $8 million in stolen recipes, heritage. Restaurant chain built on one black woman's legacy. See, what Miss Maddie didn't know was that 2 years earlier, when her son's restaurant group started their Vanderhorst and Sons Lowcountry kitchen chain, they hired a food consultant who came to my truck every day for 3 months, bought every dish, took pictures, asked questions. I thought he was writing a magazine story. Turns out he was reverse, engineering my food for a chain that was about to open 10 locations from Charleston to Hilton Head. My red rice was their signature, my okra gumbo was their heritage stew, my great-grand-mama's 7 pepper vinegar shrimp was their 1,782 secret recipe. They even stole my slogan and changed one word: "If it ain't seasoned with tradition, it ain't seasoned at all." I had kept every receipt, every time-stamped photo, every voice memo of that consultant asking, "Miss Ruby, how many bay leaves you put in here?" My lawyer, Miss Letitia Green out of Atlanta, Morehouse valedictorian, Howard Law, sharp as a shrimp knife, filed the lawsuit the Monday after the wedding. The evidence was airtight. The judge in Charleston federal court took one look and said, "I've eaten at both places. Case closed." Jury gave me $4. $8 million for theft of intellectual property, emotional distress, and punitive damages. They annulled Shivonne and Ethan's marriage the same week. Turns out the Vanderhorsts were $11 million in debt and needed Shivonne's trust from her daddy's insurance money. Miss Maddie's face on the courthouse steps, priceless. With my settlement money, I did 3 things. First, I bought the exact waterfront dock where they held that wedding reception, put up a big neon sign, Mama Ruby's Real Lowcountry Kitchen, permanent location. Second, I published the official Mama Ruby's recipe book, hardback, gold foil, every recipe they stole, plus 50 more. It hit the New York Times bestseller list and stayed there 31 weeks. Third, I started the Shivonne Washington Scholarship for Black girls from the Sea Islands who want to go to culinary school or college. First class, 20 girls, full ride. Shivonne moved back home for a while. We'd sit on the porch drinking sweet tea, watching tourists line up at my new dock restaurant. One night she asked, real quiet, "Mama, you forgive me?" I said, "Baby, I forgave you the day you were born. I just needed you to see who they really were." She cried in my arms like she was 10 years old again. Ethan came by the truck about a year later, looked like he'd aged 10 years. Lost weight, lost the smug smile. He stood there holding his hat and said, "Miss Ruby, I was wrong about everything." I handed him a plate of crab rice on the house. He ate it standing up, tears running down his face, couldn't even talk. When he finished, he whispered, "This still the best thing I ever tasted." I said, "Son, some things money can't buy and blood can't steal. Miss Maddie, last I heard she was living in a 1-bedroom in Mount Pleasant, selling Mary Kay out of her trunk. Every time she drives past my dock, she has to see that big red sign glowing against the water. Sometimes I wave. She never waves back. These days I still open at 11, still close when the last plate is gone, still wear my blue dress with the palmetto trees on Sunday. Still drink my coffee out of the same cracked stone, where mug I've had since Shivonne was in diapers. Because some things can't be stolen, can't be bought, can't be broken: love, legacy, and a recipe seasoned with truth. And every night when I lock up the restaurant and look out over the water where they tried to humiliate me, I smile and say the same thing: life always collects its debts, baby, not with screaming. Not with fighting, just with time and a whole lot of flavor.